How's it going, guys? Azanay here, back out with another video. In this video, I want to talk about the top 5 graphics card for the month April 2016. There is a lot of ridiculously good deals. When the last month I did the March 2016 video on the top 5 graphics card, there is a lot of changes for this April 2016. So without any further ado, let's get straight in for the 5th graphics card. For the 5th graphics card, I'm in the EVGA GeForce GTX 750 Ti for $120, but you do have $20 minimum rebate, knocking it down to $100. $100 for a 750 Ti is not a bad deal. It's a ridiculously great deal. 750 Ti when paired with a good CPU, let's say an i5 4460 or an 4440, you can probably crack the game to normal or high, or probably very high, getting to 30 to 50 frames per second. The 750 Ti is very good for light 1080p gaming. Don't expect maxing out games at 1080p 60 frames per second. You can just crack it to high or normal and getting to 40 to 50 and 35 to 50 frames per second in most of the cases when paired with a good CPU. While the 750 Ti doesn't require a high-end CPU, think that it would be bottleneck. An i5 4440 or an i5 4460 will do the thing. For the 4th graphics card, I'm with the Gigabyte GeForce GTX 960 Force Edition 4GB card for $185. I was waiting for this GTX 960, especially 4GB card, to knock it down to below $200, and it finally happened. It's only $185, and you do have free game Rise of the Tomb Raider. Rise of the Tomb Raider is ridiculously great game. If you sell it for $20, you can get this for GTX 960 4GB card for only $165. But you still have the Rise of the Tomb Raider. It's a ridiculously great game. If you want to play in GTX 960, you can really max out games at 1080p, getting not 60 frames per second, but you can still get 35 to 50 frames per second at 1080p. This card before was something like $220 to $230, but it was too expensive. The R9 380 was a better choice. Well, that's just the next graphics card in my list. For the 3rd graphics card, I went to the XFX R9 380 4GB card for $190, but you do have $20 minimum rebate, knocking it down to $170, and you do have free game Ashes of the Singularity. Well, the R9 380 is definitely a better choice than the GTX 960, even though they both are 4GB card. But the GTX 960 4GB card is for $185, but this R9 380 is for $170, but you still have both free games. I still recommend going for the R9 380 if you are on a tight budget. The R9 380 definitely outperforms the GTX 960 in most of the times. For the 2nd graphics card, the Gigabyte GeForce GTX 970 WindForce Edition 4GB card for $330. You do have $20 minimum rebate, knocking it down to $310. Now, most of the times I do include 970 and the R9 390 in my list, but the R9 390 was not a better value card for this month, April 2016, because the R9 390 was about $320 to $330, but the GTX 970 is, I don't know, the value came down. And you do have the free game, The Division. Well, with the R9 390, you had the free Hitman game, but the value of GTX 970 was better for this month. You can max out every games at 1080p when paired with a good CPU, say an i5 6600K or an i7 6700K. You can max out every games at 1080p 60 frames per second. You can even max out at 1440p, getting 30 to, let's say, 35 to 40 frames per second in most of the games. I personally have a 970 and I max out at 1080p and 1440p, getting those frame per second rate. For the first one, this is the most ridiculous deal I've seen in my whole life. An MSI Radeon R9 390X for $380 and $20 minimum rebate, knocking it down to $360, and you get free game The Hitman. This is just ridiculously awesome deal. You can find out Newegg right now for the graphics card. A $360 for a 390X. Well, we can compare the R9 390X and the GTX 980. The GTX 980 still outperforms the R9 390X a bit wise, but the $360 is the price range for a GTX 970 Gigabyte Extreme Overclock Edition. You get an R9 390X for that price. This is a ridiculously awesome deal. You can max out at 1440p and even at 4K, getting to 30 to 50 frames per second, but you can still max out at 1080p above 60 frames per second. That's really very guaranteed. This is the most ridiculously awesome deal in Newegg right now. Anyway guys, that's for the top 5 graphics card for April 2016. Definitely be sure to subscribe my channel and like the video if you like it, and definitely be sure to dislike it if you didn't like it. Anyway guys, I'll catch you next time. Peace out.